Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Apa khabar tuan-tuan dan puan-puan yang sedang menonton? Masya-Allah, alhamdulillah hari ini kita dapat bersama pada tengah hari ini. Saya tahu biasanya kalau pukul 12 ni memang lunch time lah. Tetapi hari ini kita buat sedikit kelainan disebabkan kita semua sedang berpuasa. Saya telah dapat menjemput dua orang sahabat saya yang base dekat Amerika dan mereka rakyat Amerika, dan insya-Allah mereka akan berkongsikan beberapa topik yang penting. Di antaranya ialah bagaimana hidup sebagai minoriti di negara Amerika sendiri, dan juga kita akan berkongsikan mengenai trajedi yang berlaku di New Zealand, di mana saya dan dua lagi orang sahabat saya itu kita sempat pergi ke sana dan menjadi sukarelawan dalam membantu menjemput ataupun mengajak orang-orang visitor ataupun pelawat kepada Masjid An-Nur, yang di mana lebih daripada 50 orang telah terbunuh disebabkan satu act of terrorism. Jadi insya-Allah hari ini sahabat-sahabat yang sedang menonton, saya ingin mengajak silalah share dan tinggalkanlah komen. Sekiranya ada soalan boleh langsung tanya insya-Allah, dan kami sangat mengalu-alukan sesiapa yang ingin menyumbang. Ada link di atas kepala saya, bolehlah link ke asia.iera.org insya-Allah. Mudah-mudahan apa yang anda sumbang itu mendapat berkah di bulan yang mulia ini, iaitu bulan Ramadan insya-Allah. Okey, tanpa melenggahkan masa, saya ingin menjemput dua orang sahabat saya. Yang satu bernama Sheikh Fahad Tasleem, merupakan ketua kepada IERA USA, dan seorang lagi ialah Imam Anwar Arafat, merupakan imam di salah sebuah masjid di Memphis. Dan insya-Allah kita jemput mereka insya-Allah. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
How are you doing, Sheikh Fahad?
Doing well, alhamdulillah. Can't complain. All blessings from Allah.
How about you, Imam Anwar? How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. We're blessed. Wallahi, we can't complain. Alhamdulillah.
Subhanallah. I've heard through the news the situation of the COVID pandemic is very bad in the States. So how are you guys getting on with it?
Well, so the U.S., as we've been telling people for a long time, it's a very big place. So it has its pockets of areas where it's much worse, and pockets of areas which is not so bad. So I can speak based on Houston. So Houston is somewhere in the middle. So it's not as bad as New York and LA and bigger cities, but we do have our fair share of cases, and so we are trying our best to do social distancing and taking all the precautions and everything. Even though we do have an interesting governor who has opened up a lot of restaurants and all this other stuff, so that's becoming another issue. But may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve us, even with such a governor, inshallah. I don't know. And then maybe Imam Anwar can tell us a little bit about Tennessee, inshallah.
Yeah, sure.
No, alhamdulillah. Subhanallah, they're trying to reopen everything right now at the peak of when we need to actually be more diligent. You know what I mean? Alhamdulillah, I think our Muslim communities are blessed that we have a lot of doctors and physicians in the community.
Yeah.
And they're able to give us good advice, alhamdulillah. I was talking to one of the doctors who works with us at the masjid. He said yesterday they had 42 new hospitalizations within the last 24 hours, just in Memphis, and that's in his hospital. So he's actually an ICU physician. So he's treating the COVID-19 and everything like this. And he's like, I think it's just terrible that because people now, they've been under like lockdown for over 55 days, and so people are impatient. And this is when we really need patience. So Ramadan is a good time to really learn that patience and realize now is the time, right when we're in the thick of things, this is when we need to be more diligent, not less. And so may Allah help us and protect us, inshallah.
Ameen.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah. I think this is also a good time where, it's good for us to do da'wah, in the sense that people's fitrah are somehow open because of the situation. And alhamdulillah, also I think from the recent launch of the IERA Chat English, we have received a couple of Americans who accepted Islam through that platform, alhamdulillah. So today, Sheikh Fahad and also Imam Anwar, here in Malaysia, and for your info, the people are watching are from Singapore, from Malaysia, from Brunei, Indonesia. Basically, they are all Malay-speaking audiences. So they always have like a thought that how how difficult it is to live as a Muslim in a minority, Muslim minority country. Because obviously in Indonesia, Malaysia, and also Brunei, we are majority. You can easily access to a mosque within like a radius of 2 kilometers. Yeah. So for yourself, like I will start with Sheikh Fahad. How is difficult as a Muslim minority living in where you are, Houston, getting access to all these Islamic facilities?
So I have to make a disclaimer first of all right? And the disclaimer is, because I love da'wah, for me, I love it. So I couldn't be in a better situation, all right? Like, I know for generally with the Muslim masses, you know, there are certain things that we deal with, Islamophobia, you know, the airports, and you know, all these things that we have challenges with. But to be honest, one of the things that I really love about, you know, being a minority in a non-Muslim majority is the opportunity to call people to Islam in a way that's very different than you would have in a, let's say, a majority Muslim country, right? So I spent some time in some Muslim majority countries. You know, I lived in Saudi for some time. I lived in Pakistan for some time. And so the dynamic of how you are able to approach people is very different. And so here, one of the things is that you're approaching people where they really just do not know about Islam many times. Certain basic fundamental things that you would assume that people would know by now, like it's totally out of the scope of what they've learned. Even though it's gotten a lot better as Islam is becoming more commonplace, you see it more on television, you see it more on, you know, on the radio and, you know, the internet and all these things. So people are getting more exposure, but at the same time, you're still not seeing it to where you would see it like a Muslim majority.
MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Is he still there?
Yeah, I think he got stuck.
He froze. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, we move on to you, Imam Anwar, while we wait for him to get back online.
Yeah.
How, for your case, where you are an imam of a mosque in Memphis, how do you get along? What is happening now in the for the mosques there?
Alhamdulillah. I mean, so obviously, it has its challenges for sure. You know what I mean? So there are challenges.
Right,
oh, mashallah, he's back. Alhamdulillah.
And one of the other challenges of living in a place that you think is the most advanced nation in the world is it has weak wireless. Anyways, Fadhli, go ahead.
Maybe that's just your home, Sheikh. No, I'm just kidding. So, in terms of
maybe it is. Maybe
there are definitely challenges, right? So, the challenges of not, you know, hearing the adhan on a regular basis, not having a masjid within every 2 kilometers, like you said. Although Houston, mashallah, I think they have a masjid every 5 kilometers, I would say, you know, if you mashallah. Wow. Houston actually,
every 5 minutes.
Houston, mashallah, there's a lot of, but compare that to like Memphis, which is a medium-sized city. We have about 8 masjids in the city. So we're blessed, but there are some cities where they only have 1 masjid or 2. And if you live in a small town or something like this, sometimes there's no masjid or a little musalla. So the access is going to be less, obviously. There's challenges in terms of even the lifestyle compatibility that wise. But overall, I would actually tell you that if I didn't truly love, you know, the opportunities like Sheikh Fahad said, you know, giving da'wah, living here in the West, being able to practice religion, you know, to this day, alhamdulillah, we are able to practice Islam very well. And in fact, I think in some ways better than even majority Muslim countries. You know, we can have a halaqah. We can have a halaqah at the masjid. Nobody comes up to you and says, hey, what's going on? You know what I mean? Nobody harasses you. The freedom to practice our religion is still appreciated. Still, alhamdulillah. Although there were some politicians a few years ago who tried to pass like an anti-Sharia bill, anti-this. That was mainly out of fear of the unknown, more so than, I think, being malicious. Like a lot of these people, you talk to them. Some people, yes, they might have ill intent toward Muslims, but a lot of people are merely ignorant. Wallahi, you talk to the regular, average Joe American, and your da'wah experience is actually just educational. You're just telling them, and a lot of them are open-minded, like, wow, I actually didn't know that. I actually didn't think about that. I actually didn't. And so these opportunities, alhamdulillah, are there, and we've been blessed to be active in our own communities. So alhamdulillah, being an imam of masjid, you know, we've been working with the interfaith community here in Memphis, for example. I can send you the video. We have a video of like me, myself, pastors from and priests from like the Catholic Church, the Baptists, the Episcopalian, the Methodist, the Presbyterian, all these different denominations of Christians, with a unified COVID-19 message that all of us, we're going to keep our houses of worship closed. Even the Jewish community came because there's about 7 synagogues in the city. And all of us, we put out this really good PSA that says that, look, we are all united, through our faiths. We believe in God, etc. We also believe that we should follow sound science. We should follow what the medical doctors are telling us. Unfortunately, we have people who want to ignore the doctors and just say, oh, I trust in God. That's all I need. And God will protect me. I can go to the church. Not a problem. Yeah, this happened. There were churches that said, we're protected through the blood of Jesus Christ. And the blood of Jesus Christ will save us. So we had to say, like, guys, look. So a lot of the churches came out and said, look, you know what I mean? Just because we believe in God, it doesn't mean that we check our brains out at the door and just ignore science and ignore the medicine. So we had to put out like a unified message. This is good, alhamdulillah, and it's good da'wah. So I shared the verse. Just one thing. I shared the verse. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. I'll finish off with the
verse that said, whoever saves one life, it's as if he saved all of mankind. And the Jewish rabbi, he looks at me and he's like, we have a verse like that too in the Torah. And I told him, actually, the Quran says that this is found in the Torah. Because it says, at the beginning of the verse, it says, مِنْ أَجْلِ ذَلِكَ كَتَبْنَا عَلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيل. Because of this, we wrote upon Bani Israel. And then he looked at me, he's like, really? And I said, yeah. So I sent him the whole thing, and it's like, wow, that's amazing. He didn't know that, that we have this commonality. So it was, there's good opportunities.
Nice. Yeah, mashallah, alhamdulillah. I'm happy to know about what's happening, and especially everyone is following, it become law-abiding because of the COVID-19. Similarly, like what we're having right now here, even the mosques are still closed, but in some other states, they have limited number of people that are allowed to do the congregation prayers. So, mashallah, there's something that really attracts me of one of the methodologies that how you do da'wah in the States is this type of banners that I want to share on the screen. Maybe you can share more with me. Sheikh Fahad, what is this actually?
So this is the Jesus exhibit that IRA has published. We did this the end of last year around October in one of the masjids, actually the masjid that's close to my house, which is Masjid al-Salam. And so we laid out all of the material and all of the and basically this is you can say like the life story of Isa alayhi salam, Maryam alayhi salam kind of laid out. And we invited some church groups. We invited just the neighbors, the people that are around the community. And one of the things about specifically the champions community, the people that I'm involved with at my local masjid, is that they have a very good relationship with the churches in the community, which sometimes you have that, sometimes you don't. Like Imam Anwar is blessed to have that, myself, we have that. And so we had a lot of people from the church that came, and they were exposed to Isa alayhi salam according to like the Quran, according to our tradition. And as they kind of walk through, they had questions, but a lot of things, like I said, that you and I would consider very basic, they had no idea, right? One of the most simple things that, we believed Isa alayhi salam did not have a father, for instance. That was surprising for a lot of people. They said, oh, okay. And just other things like that. And just the honor that we give to Maryam alayhi salam. That was also something that was that really kind of people were surprised about. And they were surprised not in the sense that, how dare you Muslims are claiming Isa alayhi salam, but more so in the sense that, that you have a figure like Maryam alayhi salam who's so elevated within the Islamic tradition. So it was, and these type of programs, we do them all the time. This was the presentation part. It's always interesting to have people, we keep the presentations to a quick 10-minute just overview of Islam, what we believe, and then we open up for Q&A. And usually what I tell people in these Q&A, I say, look, I know we live in Texas, and I visited a lot of churches, and I've done a lot of speaking in this area. I have very thick skin. So whatever you have heard and you think will offend me like crazy, I want you to ask me, because I'd rather you ask me than just go back, to your pastor or whoever it is and have him explain it to you. And I don't care how offensive it is. And so I've gotten questions that, if maybe you were to ask other Muslims, they would be highly offended. Like I remember one time I was doing a presentation in a church, and someone says, how can you possibly be an American and follow, na'udhu billah, that pedophile? Okay. Now look at the question. I mean, how sharp. And so obviously inside my blood was boiling, right? Like I wanted to take something and throw it at the guy. But obviously we know in the realm of da'wah, you have to kind of calm yourself, exhibit as much hilm as you can. And so I simply kind of navigated the question. I said, look, this is the thing, and clarified a few things, and obviously the idea of what it means to be an American, at the same time the idea of who the Prophet ﷺ was. And it was a real eye-opener for even him, because a lot of the people are getting their ideas, we think they might be getting it from the media. A lot of people are actually getting it from the church, which is even more interesting, right? The pastors coming in and saying, look at all these verses in the Quran. When people, or hadith, some people come and they're quoting hadith to me, man. I'm like, Muslims don't know these hadith, man. So those are some of the type of things that we try to navigate. Like I said, most people you're not going to find them very well learned about Islam. And then you do have a section of the community that, they're going to their churches, and in some churches, they do speak about Islam and try to teach them about Islam. Unfortunately, the way that's taught has a lot of animosity with it. So you have to be able to clarify that animosity, and just have very thick skin, when you read the Quran, when we read in the Quran about the prophets, the challenges they faced, when you read about the Prophet ﷺ, how, at times when he would be sometimes physically, accosted and things like that, you get a slight taste of that. And I'm not saying it's the same. I haven't been accosted, alhamdulillah. No one's thrown anything at me or anything like that, alhamdulillah. But still, when someone says something like that type of statement, it still kind of stings. And so you have to be able to show that hilm, that that aspect of not letting someone push your buttons.
Yes, subhanallah. I agree. Sure. To be honest, like something similar happened to one of the brothers that I know. Can you imagine that in this millennia, that he still gets stoned just because he called people to Allah?
Wow.
In Papua New Guinea, subhanallah. It's something very bizarre. Yeah, stoned. Literally stoned. Yeah, subhanallah. But I want to go to Imam Anwar quickly, inshallah. I would like to ask you, do you receive non-Muslims, even though, like they come to your mosque to ask about Islam, even if it's not mosque open day?
Oh, all the time. We get visitors. Obviously this is before the coronavirus, right? Right now the masjid
still doing that? Oh man.
But before, in those days, yeah, alhamdulillah, we would get visitors on a regular basis. And many of them, they would have questions. Many of them, they were sent through like a college class. Many of them, they're just curious. They just want to ask a question. I still remember we had a guy, he's in his 50s. Okay, in his 50s. He was taking some college classes at a local university. And he called the masjid beforehand and he said, can I come on Friday? I want to observe your prayers. And we told him, yeah, sure, just come on in. And he's like, can I talk to the Imam? And I told him, yeah, you're actually talking to him. That's me, right now. And he's like, oh, okay, can I talk in person? I can ask you. So I told him, come before Jum'ah a little bit, and then we can talk afterwards if you want to. So when he came in before Jum'ah, he was nervous. Now imagine, he's like 55 years old, okay? And he's walking in super nervous. He's like, looking around and all these things. We welcomed him. We greeted him. I got him a bottle of water. Here you go. Obviously it's not Ramadan and he doesn't fast, but anyways. So and I'm telling him, come on in, welcome. All these things. He's like looking around. I'm like, yeah. And then I showed him the musalla and I said, just sit here in the back. You can observe. If you have any questions, write them down. I can answer afterwards. I'll talk to you, after the sermon is over. Here's what's going to do. We're going to pray. Don't get alarmed when we get up to all. You can still watch, and whatnot. So he did. He sat down. After the salah, I sat down with him and he's like, I am absolutely shocked. I said, why? He said, our church is like the church that I go to. Our pastor has given multiple sermons about you guys, and that you guys are evil, and that you guys always preach hatred, and that you always this, and you guys are terrorists. But he's like telling me this, and he's like, I am absolutely shocked because like I was nervous coming in here because I believed all that, and he's like, now I'm so disappointed because he's like, you guys have been the most generous, the most kind people, and I'm looking at him, I'm like, what in the world is first off, why is your pastor talking about us like that? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, And why is he talking about us generally? Like, we're not, you know what I mean? I don't know why we're on the docket. You know, there's so many other things that you guys need, you know, not worrying about, you know, what Muslims are doing. So he's like, look, this is what I want to do. He's like, I'm going to go, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to my pastor, and I'm going to confront him, and I'm going to be like, why are you doing this? And I said, wow, thank you very much. And so he asked me some questions on it, and he's like, do you mind if I record this? And I said, no, that's not a problem. So he recorded my talk. Then he posted it onto his Facebook. So my Q&A, he was asking me questions about Islam, just Islam 101, you know, basic questions. He posted on his Facebook. He sent me the link. He's like, so that you know, this is what I did. And it's like, I sent it to my entire congregation, everybody in my church. You know what I mean? To show them Muslims aren't what you guys were saying. And he's like, and he asked, you know, can I come back in the future if I want to? Yeah. And he came back, I think, once or twice. Alhamdulillah. Now, just to be honest, he never actually accepted Islam or anything. But imagine just the good that we got by showing this person that we're not the evil terrorists that he was under the impression that we were. And so that, alhamdulillah, was happening on a regular basis, where we'd get people come in. And of course, we would get people come in and they would actually take their shahadas afterwards. So you have both. But I just wanted to share that one.
Jazakallah. Right. I think that's very good information, yeah? Because to be honest, yeah.
No, I was going to say something, and I don't know if Imam Anwar knows this, but when I first visited Imam Anwar's community, this is before I met Imam Anwar, like the day before, and he was doing a Jummah khutbah somewhere else, and I was doing the Jummah khutbah at his masjid. So this is before we knew each other, and a brother walked in, and I made da'wah to him, and he took his shahada. So when Imam Anwar says like this thing happens on a frequent basis, where people come in, they visit the masjid, they get exposure. I mean, I was there for like a weekend, and you know, I just happened to run into him, and a few people there were like, "Look, the Imam's not here. Can you speak to him?" And alhamdulillah, we sat down, we spoke, and he accepted Islam. Alhamdulillah. So I totally, you know, I mean, it's not like we're exaggerating here. People do come in, they come to the masjid, they have, you know, and you know, one of the things you're asking about living in the West, living as a minority, sometimes what happens is you tend to be on your best behavior because you're a minority, right? And really the reason is because you have this idea of the izzah of Islam. So even you might be like a really bad person or a really bad Muslim, but you just don't want like a non-Muslim to see that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so within the masjid confines, you kind of understand that. And so therefore you try to be on your best behavior, even though internally that might not be the case, right? So.
Okay, brothers, just, you see this photo on the screen right now. What is the first thing that comes to your mind?
Christchurch.
Yeah, a lot of emotions.
A lot of emotions, yeah. Subhanallah.
Yeah.
If you can, let me just say something in bahasa now. Kepada tuan-tuan dan puan-puan yang sedang melihat foto yang ada di skrin sekarang, inilah merupakan church ataupun masjid di Christchurch, di mana lebih daripada 50 jiwa terkorban disebabkan serangan teroris daripada seorang individu yang ekstremis. Dan di sinilah di tempat mananya kita sempat untuk menjadi sukarelawan dan kita membantu dalam menyambut tamu-tamu yang datang. Kalau tuan-tuan dan puan-puan lihat dekat gambar ni, inilah selepas lebih kurang 2 ataupun 3 minggu selepas tragedi itu berlaku. Dan insyaAllah saya akan minta 2 orang sahabat saya untuk berkongsikan pengalaman mereka, insyaAllah. So I mentioned to the audience saying that, you know, this was the opportunity that we had, where we were given the opportunity to become volunteers to assist with the people coming to visit the mosque. So unlike what we saw earlier, where people come in the States to see the Jesus exhibition, now when we were there, can you still remember how was the reaction or how was the emotion by the people who visited this place? Maybe Imam Anwar, you want to start first? Inshallah.
Inshallah. No, I mean, I was overwhelmed by a lot of emotions. Just talking to the people and their individual stories, you know, story after story, experience after experience of what they witnessed, but their resilience, wallahi, their patience, the fact that they were, you know what I mean, they overcame it, the strength that they showed, the perseverance, subhanallah, I'm telling you. And then the people who supported, you know, the New Zealanders themselves who would come and visit the masjid and just show their condolences. in the beginning, I thought, obviously we make assumptions before we go, and a lot of times our assumptions are wrong. And I thought that we were just going to be, it's just going to be straight da'wah, just talking to people about Islam. A majority of the time, actually, we were consoling the visitors. These are non-Muslim visitors, and we had to console them because they felt a partnership with, the Muslims. They felt that they were under attack as well. This is not just a Muslim thing. This is attack on every New Zealander. And they were there. They were emotional. They would be crying. They're in tears. They're this. And I felt like, man, I'm consoling them. I'm, helping them and getting them to think. And then we realized, like, if we can just show compassion, if we can be good hosts, that is good da'wah in itself. You know what I mean? If we can talk to them, have them witness, like here, the picture of us praying. If they can see that, you know what I mean? If they can witness that, some people participated, some people watched, some people, they felt a very emotional response. And it was very moving for a lot of these people. And obviously it was very moving for us. You know what I mean? Those are, a number of days that I will never forget, wallahi, the time that we spent there in New Zealand. So
yeah, Imam Anwar, maybe I sorry to cut you there, but I have to go back to this slide because, one of the things that I really felt when we prayed together with the locals was that, can you imagine that, for example, you being the Imam in the masajid, Sheikh, you travel to a lot of mosques where you know a lot of people, and suddenly you used to stand in a row with some people that you know very well, but now when you look to your right or look to your left, they are no longer there. And this time we know that they are no longer there. They have passed on. So, Sheikh Fahad, maybe you can touch a little bit. When you were there praying together, leading the salah, how do you feel?
I mean, wallahi, it was a surreal experience. One of the things about pictures is that it's a very different dynamic. So one of the things you may not notice in the picture is that while you see the carpet on the bottom, what you don't see is, like, behind the camera, in fact, there was like this bare area, which is typically what happens when you take carpet out and they have that padding at the bottom. And the reason that's the case is because they had to take out all the carpet because all of the blood, right? And yeah, I think you can see a little bit of it there. And so, it's little things like that would actually shook me, right? Because you're walking to the masjid, and a lot of the masjids, for better or for worse, at least here in the US, they're very ornate, all right? You have the chandeliers, the carpets, the walls, the calligraphy. Yet when you walked in to this masjid, just the sheer bareness of it all was very eerie, right? And then the fact that you had people that were standing there that they had lost people that, like you said, that they spent so much time with. A lot of times in our communities, we speak about, especially in Ramadan, we always speak about this idea of, okay, Laylatul Qadr, this is the night where, for instance, the angels are shown what is going to happen in the next year and who's going to make it to Ramadan and who's not going to make it to Ramadan. And one of the things is the reality for the people that we were visiting is that the Ramadan that was coming up, they were going to experience that like no other community, right? Like when you lose someone in your community, you lose like a person, maybe some of the people knew him, maybe he was a friend of a friend. But this time for this community, they were going to be literally standing in salah and praying tarawih and being in a place where they would know at least one person that was not there, that was there last Ramadan. So from that perspective, it brings the idea of the temporary nature of this life to a completely different level than we typically think of it. So that was one of the things that I experienced, coming there, being with the people there. It was just a surreal experience. So
yeah, and I believe that this was a last minute event for us to just go and pack our bag, and tomorrow you'll be flying, right? You weren't prepared.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I received Subhanallah. I received a call from Hamza when I was in Jakarta. Yeah, he said, "Fadhli, are you?" I said, "Yeah, I'm in Jakarta. Fadhli, can you go to Christchurch tomorrow?" I said, "Sorry, are you serious?" Yeah, Christchurch tomorrow. Okay, I'll fly back home now and get my luggage and I'll go, inshallah. So Next day after Christchurch, subhanallah.
SubhanAllah. Yeah, it was the same with me, and I think Imam Anwar as well. I mean, I was in the middle of class, and he called, and then I was like, okay, I'll just call you back. He's like, no, call me now. So I had to like walk out of class. He's like, okay, listen, I need you to go to Christchurch, like, tomorrow. And I'm like, tomorrow? I'm like, look, man, I got class. I got all these things. I can't just pick up. And he's like, all right, how about day after tomorrow? And so we negotiated, and we came down to day after tomorrow. And I think with Imam Anwar, it was the same thing. Like, I basically called him and I said, look, we got to go. And, it was something that was thrown together last minute almost. But, but what they were telling me initially, I'll be really honest, like, I didn't believe it when Hamza was mentioning this to me. In other words, when he was saying, look, man, there are so many non-Muslims that are visiting the mosque that they're having a hard time managing all of the people that are coming in. And they were giving us numbers like 500 people a day and things like that. And I'm like, 500 people a day? Come on, man. There must be some hyperbole there, right? There must be exaggeration there. But yet, and both of you guys know this, it was literally, we would be there from sun up to sundown, past Isha, and people were just coming and coming and coming. And so, to be really honest, it wasn't exaggerated at all. And, we picked up, we went there, and, we were able to speak to a lot of people and hopefully exact some change, inshallah.
MashaAllah. Jazakallah khair. Thank you for sharing, Sheikh. I believe if you look at this photo right now, I still remember how the people's reaction to the message of Islam. They are so open to listen to us, and they even ask questions, wanting to know more about Islam. I think that was a right time and also the right moment for us to actually share the message of Islam. Yeah. And one of the photos that really attracts me is this photo right after this, where you had this conversation together with one of the local Sheikh that they chose to stay even longer just to keep on listening about Islam, keep on listening about the message of Islam. So Sheikh, and Alhamdulillah, also I got the opportunity to speak to a group of women that they travel all the way from they live in different areas across the North Islands and also the South Islands in New Zealand. And mashallah, they were so interested to know about Islam, even though of what the tragedy had happened. It has created a lot of awareness. And mashallah, I think the people of New Zealand, the Kiwis, they are people with beautiful hearts. Yeah, they are so warm, they are so supportive, they are so, what else? They are so they really felt for the community, and many of them came to show their respect. And Imam Anwar, before I go to you, I just would like to share this photo, if you can still remember this photo. Do you remember that we used to have this after Fajr reminders, right?
Yeah, so and after Isha as well, after Isha. I think this is after Isha.
Do you remember what kind of reminders that you delivered? I believe it's more on motivation to
give da'wah,
recover from the tragedy, and also at the same time to take this opportunity to give da'wah, right?
Yes.
If you want to share something there.
Yeah, no, I mean, first off, I mean, just praying in that masjid, knowing what happened there, and how the whole world, not just the Muslim world, but the whole world knew this place, felt the tragedy that came, from this place. To me, it was the whole experience was very emotional. It was very humbling, just, leading salah, talking to people after the salah, and sharing just a few words. You know what I mean? We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He accepts all of our deeds from us, inshallah. Wallah, we just tried, some of the exact, I remember we would try to encourage people to be involved in the da'wah, because there were, obviously in the local Muslim community, there are brothers who are very active, but obviously there are brothers who just come in, pray, and leave. You know what I mean? They're not interested in something more. And what we tried to do through our engagement there is to also kind of motivate the local brothers and sisters to kind of step up to the plate, get out of your shell. You might not, because a lot of times people might underestimate their own knowledge. They think that, I don't have enough knowledge, or I don't have enough experience, or I don't have the language capability, I don't have this, I don't have that, in order for me to actually be able to give da'wah. And that's why you can see even Sheikh Fahad in this picture, part of the da'wah workshop, and you know this, Brother Fadhli, is to show people you already have a lot of knowledge. You know, we just need to repackage it, re-evaluate it, and inshallah ta'ala, you can actually, anybody can give da'wah. I believe any Muslim can give da'wah if they really want to. It doesn't take necessarily, you know what I mean, you don't have to have a big degree, you don't have to have, you know what I mean, a piece of paper, you know, as long as you're sincere, inshallah ta'ala, you follow the correct methodology, you'll be fine, inshallah ta'ala. So that's kind of what we tried to do while we were there, you know.
Yeah. And I think some of the other lessons that we kind of derived were some of the lessons related to like emotional intelligence and how that relates to dawah. Because, you know, dawah is, from some perspective, situational. You have to read the room, as they say. And we had some experiences where we did meet some folks that didn't read the room quite, and you know, left some left some people with a bad taste in their mouth. And so I think that was one thing that I took away from there, was the idea of understanding emotional intelligence. And what I mean by emotional intelligence is, you know, there's certain things that are to be said in a certain situation when someone's coming, they're mourning. You have to be really careful, you know, and, you know, in being careful, you also want to guide them. And so, you know, these are times when you're highlighting parts of Islam that, you know, that are going to touch the heart in a way that is, you can say, respect, that gives the respect to the people that are coming to the masjid, right? I mean, there's, like Imam Anwar mentioned, there are people that are coming just to mourn, and they'd be breaking down crying. And, you know, you really have to judge that and remember that you're speaking to a human being at the end of the day. A lot of times, you know, we talk about dawah, but we end up making dawah into something where we're presenting people with rational arguments as if they're robots, right?
Yeah.
You know, one of the changes we made in the Aira Dawah training course is trying to incorporate more emotional intelligence. So no doubt anyone can do dawah, and you know, and I fully agree with that. I mean, Imam is absolutely right. I mean, there's no impediment to anyone calling people to Islam, even knowledge. If you have enough knowledge to be Muslim, you can at least tell them about La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, right? As long as, you know, you maintain your emotional intelligence and read the room and the situation and things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, mashallah. Imam Anwar, do you still remember this?
Yes. Mashallah. No, that brother, yani, subhanallah, the brother came in and accepted Islam after Fajr.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
the brother on the right. And the brother on the left had accepted Islam just a few weeks before, and they were friends. And he had talked to him and invited him to the masjid. And subhanallah, yani, Allah guides whomever He wills.
Yeah.
Yes, subhanallah. And do you remember the brother, Sheikh Fahad? Do you remember the brother in blue? Omar.
Yes.
Yeah. I met him again, by the way, because I went back this year.
Oh, mashallah, yeah. You met him again. You saw him again, huh? How's he doing?
I saw him again. He was with brother John Fontaine, and they were hanging out. And you know, I met him a couple of times. I crashed one of their coffee sittings. So.
And I still remember, yeah, mashallah. He's a Maori, yeah, this brother, half Maori, I think, half Maori, half Kiwi. Yeah. And one of the interesting stories that I've heard about this brother with the purple coat.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember his story, he became like an icon of his conversion story. Do you remember? In New Zealand, people wants to know about how he accepted Islam.
Yeah, he was in the news. The news media picked up his story, and because he was homeless for a while, and he went from being homeless to now being Muslim. And not only this, but actually volunteering at the masjid. He was helping at Masjid al-Nur, you know, and giving back. So it's subhanallah.
Alhamdulillah. And you know, this brother in green checkered shirt, he's still in contact with me right until today.
Really?
Mashallah.
Yeah, mashallah.
His name is Mike.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mashallah.
Yeah. Yes.
So, mashallah, alhamdulillah. I think they are slowly readjusting, being a Muslim, you know, coping their daily life. And alhamdulillah, they are doing well. And
you know, can you stay on that picture just for a moment?
Sure, of course.
I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you remember that morning, but the morning that he accepted Islam, that brother who's standing next to me in the picture,
Yeah.
was sent by an organization that had donated carpet to Masjid al-Nur, and they were going to do the whole carpet in the exact same carpet as the one in the Haram. I don't know if they did it, because we didn't go back. Did they? Do you know if they did it?
Yeah,
Fahad?
they did.
Fahad?
Yeah, they did.
They did? Okay. I didn't really check, man. I just kind of walked in. I didn't really think twice about the carpet.
About the carpet? Okay. Anyways, he came. He's like, where the shipment is ready to come, we need to measure the masjid. Do you know anybody who knows how to measure the masjid? Measure like how much carpet we need. And it so happened that Brother Mike had experience doing carpet, and he could do the measurement for him. Like, it's just coincidence. You know what I mean? The brother came in, he's like, I need somebody who can help us with the carpet. And then this guy took his shahada that same day, and he knows how to do carpet. So, subhanAllah, it worked out. It was crazy how it worked out. And the guy got his measurements, and he was able to take them back. So
the guy got his measurements, and the other guy got his Islam, and everyone was
Alhamdulillah,
happy.
yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
And Masjid al-Nur got the carpet, you know.
And Masjid al-Nur got the carpet. There you go. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Killing two birds with one stone, yeah? Subhanallah.
Yes. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, after that, do you remember that we went to this another masjid right after the Christchurch incident, where
Yes.
Sheikh Fahad, he went home earlier, yeah? Me and you.
I mean, but I visited the masjid later on. This was Linwood, wasn't it?
No,
No. This is not
Ashburn.
Linwood.
This is
Ashburn.
Ashburton.
Ashburton.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think during that week itself, there was a lot of Islamic awareness going around, where many local mosques actually opened their doors to invite non-Muslims to get a feel or experience what Islam is. So I think that one of the best da'wah at that point of time, and I think it should be replicated all over the world, because this is one of the most effective way of sharing Islam with others. And you can see in one of this photo where Imam Anwar, maybe you want to share, what were you sharing with this couple here?
Wallah, we were just answering questions the whole time. I don't remember exactly what I was telling these people, because we were so overwhelmed, but everybody was so interested. First off, this masjid, it used to be a church, and then the church closed down. You know what I mean? There was nobody attending, and the city knew, some people in the city, because it's a small town, they knew that some Muslims were looking for a place of worship. So the city told them, you guys can buy it. They helped them. They purchased it. And the mayor of that town was actually there. She was in the open house, if you remember. The mayor was there. Their local MP, the minister, the representative was there, the lady, and we talked to her and her husband, and she was like, yeah, I work with Jacinda and all these things. And I told her, give my salams to Jacinda and tell her, we like her. We wish more people, more world leaders were taking her stances on a lot of things, subhanallah. But it was so I mean, it was amazing, because all these people were genuinely interested to learn more about what is Islam, because they haven't been exposed to it. They hear about it on the news, they see things in the media, but to see, like, there's a mosque here now, and you guys are here, so it was an opportunity for them to talk. And of course there was good food and good atmosphere, so we enjoyed it tremendously, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, so this year we actually did a tour of New Zealand. And Ashburton was one of the cities we visited, one of the masjids we visited. And we have a new exhibit related to like Islamic spirituality, worship, and things like that. And so we had the exhibit at a bunch of these different cities and places, and so it was very. I think the reaction was very similar. We had we had some MPs that visited. It might have been the same one who said she knew Jacinda, because I think we found out she also knew Jacinda. So I'm assuming it's the same person.
The lady, yeah, she's probably. I mean, she represents that district, so.
Yeah. So I think that was the idea behind it. But we revisited those places, which was really powerful, because a year on, it's still fresh in people's mind. And what I was telling people in New Zealand on this tour specifically, the last one we had, I said, unfortunately, I'm coming from a place where you will have a lot of violent acts happen, and they're easily forgotten. And so you have like school shootings, for instance, that happen, unfortunately, too frequently here in the US. We had one in Texas like last year. We have in different parts of the US, and yet you don't see the same outpouring of the community, which a year later you had a very similar outpouring. You think that maybe just because of the fact that the event just had happened, And it was just because of the event happening at that very moment. That's why you saw the outpouring. But even a year on, we were finding that just something about the quality of the Kiwis, quality of the people in New Zealand, is that they would come and they would offer whatever help they could. And it was just something really nice to see, even a year on, that you still have people that are there and they're interested in Islam. We had a lot of people that were coming to the exhibit. We had presentations and things like that. So, and then we had this book launch as well at the end of the tour.
Yeah,
So,
how was the launch of this book? How did the local Kiwis accept this from? I mean, how was this book relevant to the situation that happened in New Zealand? Maybe you can share with us, Sheikh.
Yeah, sure. So Dr. Uthman Latif, he's the one that wrote this book. And it's basically about, as the title suggests, on being human. And what he speaks about in this particular book is how we view other people, right? And I think even in the book, he mentions the idea of the shooter dehumanizing the people that he was killing. And in order to do an act like that, you have to consider the person that you're finishing off or you're killing to be less than human. And so the book focuses on what Islam says about viewing the other and how we treat people as human beings. So one of the areas that we tend to sometimes tell people is, one of the things that we view when it comes to the human being is we believe that human beings at their core are in a state of goodness, what we call the fitra, that they're at their core good. So our assumption about people is good before it's bad, right? Much like legal systems around the world, they start with the concept of innocent until proven guilty. We say good until proven otherwise, And so therefore, that's the assumption that Islam brings. And subhanAllah, I remember we were at, I'm trying to think what city this was. It'll come back to me, but it was in one of the tours, and a lady came up to me afterwards, and she said, "You know what you said? It makes so much sense to me." Because I would always think, because she was coming from a Christian background. Now, she wasn't a practicing Christian, but she said, we were always taught that humans were born in a state of original sin. And, I would always think that's very strange, because when you see a newborn baby, you don't consider this baby evil. You consider the baby like, innocent and pure. You never look at a baby and see, look at that little sinful rat. That's not your assumption. Your assumption is that innocent child, right? And she says, what you said today just makes so much sense. It just intuitively, it's very pleasing, And so, and we had the copies of the book, and she took a copy of that. And so the book highlighted a lot of those aspects about Islam and what it says about the human being, and then what it says about how we're supposed to interact with each other as human beings, at our core, and what the assumption is about. And then it is filled with examples from the Prophet ﷺ and how this idea, his quality of compassion and mercy, where that would be front and center, time after time after time. So he has a plethora of examples related to that as well. So, and that's really what the purpose of the book was to show Islam's view on how we're supposed to be living together as human beings.
Imam
So I think
Anwar, you mentioned a lot of good points there, Sheikh Fahad. I agree 100% that Islam, we don't look at things like we don't judge until it's proven otherwise. Subhanallah, that's a statement where many maybe do not understand that Islam is a religion that we have to think positively about all things unless it's proven wrong. Yeah. So Imam Anwar, maybe you can add something on top of what Sheikh Fahad has said earlier. He has covered a lot of the points, but maybe you can share about from your opinion. What do you think, being a Muslim living in a minority country, and you have a lot of diversity, especially in America, where they say that this is the land of hope, or the land of you see people from all over the world coming to America. So in that aspect, how do you cultivate the diversity with Muslim, non-Muslims, and of people from different parts of the world?
So here's the thing. There's a lot of different ways that we can go about the perspective, but I do believe that it should come from a place of love, meaning we love for others what we love for ourselves. We, when I engage in da'wah, a lot of people take it as, oh, I'm going to go in there and I'm just going to like, shut them up. I'm going to prove my point. I'm going to show them that Islam is the haqq, it's the truth, and that's it, right? And then they want to leave. They just want to prove a point.
Yeah.
And that's not da'wah. That's debate. That's arguing. That's proving a point. But then what did you get out of it? You know what I mean? Okay, you got your point, and then what? Instead, I think that our da'wah, and this is why, like he said, on being human, we see these people as truly people who need guidance. At their core, they are good, and we should approach them, wallahi, with a sense of love and compassion. We should have compassion for them. We want to talk to them and be like, just like I would want myself to be saved if I was misguided, I would want to, to help save other people as well. You know what I mean? I want to show them the light of Islam, the good that it has, genuinely speaking. Because like I said, there's a lot of people, they might want to be engaged in da'wah, but it's not like for the love of the people or the love of that good. They just want to like go out there and win arguments, and that's not da'wah. So,
yeah, I believe in our era we always adopt the go rap approach, which is very relaxed,
confrontation.
Yeah, that's right. So I believe that the methodology also plays a big part in terms of how we deliver the message of Islam with hikmah especially. So Sheikh, before we have a few more minutes, inshallah, before we go, I would like to just ask this question, because the people here in this part of the world, they heard that in the West, people are leaving religion irregardless, regardless they are Muslim or they are Christians or maybe they are Buddhists or Hindu, they are leaving the religion and they're claiming of this so-called new form religion called atheism. So tell us, maybe or share with us, what is the reality that is happening there in USA, inshallah?
So I think that perception may be coming more so from places like the UK than it is in the US, because in the US we still have still have a pretty large population of people that are religious, right? They're still going to church. They're still, although I think it was in a Pew report from 2012 that actually has decreased quite a bit. Nevertheless, it's not as bad as you'll see it in places like Europe and the UK. And that being said, depending on where you are in the US, you'll find more, some areas in the US where you have a higher percentage of people that are leaving their religion versus other places. So, for instance, Imam Anwar and I, we both live in the Bible Belt. Tennessee is the Bible Belt, right, Imam Anwar?
Tennessee is the buckle. Memphis is the buckle of the belt. Yeah. We're like right in the middle.
Okay. I think I may have lost him, but okay.
No, I said.
So,
did you hear what I said? I said Tennessee is the buckle. We're the buckle of the belt.
The buckle. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
so I mean, in places like this, you're going to get a mixed, you get a mixed community of people. And then you might have certain pockets. So in Texas, in the major cities, you'll have a good mix. Houston, you'll have people that are religious. And when I say religious, I mean primarily Christian. Similarly in Dallas. Then you have a place like Austin. Austin is just extremely liberal. And that's where you see that atheism has proliferated like crazy. It spread like crazy, right? And the reasons are they're multifaceted. It has to do with the University of Texas bringing in liberal, instructors and things like that, and professors. And nevertheless, in this ocean of people that are relatively religious, you have this one city that, it's just it's just people are just leaving their religion and adopting atheism, or at very least agnosticism. So it really does depend on the place that you're at, and the community you're visiting and things like that. And then to be really honest, unfortunately, you do find even within the Muslim community that people are leaving Islam. I have cases that I deal with. In fact, I just dealt with one day before yesterday where someone was thinking about leaving Islam, and this is not uncommon. Like, I get these all the time. There was at one point right before I was heading to New Zealand, I was dealing with 4 different cases of people that had left Islam. And so, yeah. And so while you have that challenge, at the same time, because people are now beginning to see that, that there's more to life than just the hustle bustle of your job, work, school, get married. So you've got kind of both of these dynamics at play. And so from one perspective, it's true, there's a lot of pressure. Maybe Muslims are leaving because of that pressure. But at the same time, you have a lot of people that are coming to Islam because they're looking for they're looking for the answers to core existential questions about their existence. Why am I here? What is the meaning and purpose of my life? And what happens when I die? So as much as you want to bring in terms of materialism and scientism and naturalism and all of these things that you're exposed to a lot of times on college campuses, even with all of that, people still feel the need that they need to connect with something greater than themselves, right? They still need they have a spiritual need. And that's why, even Sam Harris came out with a book on how to attain spirituality as an atheist, which seems like an oxymoron because spirituality necessitates a spirit, a ruh. But if you believe in only the natural world, then you can't really believe in a conscious ruh, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, that's kind of in a nutshell. It depends on where you are, and it depends on the community that you're addressing. In the north, let's say northeast, you may have higher occurrences of atheism in places like New York, Washington, D.C. Similarly, on the West Coast, Silicon Valley, it's really big in Silicon Valley, in Northern California, the home of Tesla and Google and all these places. So you find a lot of atheism being very strong in that area as well. So yeah, and so it depends on where you are in the U.S. The U.S., when I started, I said the U.S. is big, right?
Subhanallah. So before I go to Imam Anwar, Sheikh, maybe you can add a little bit more about this methodology that we have been teaching all over the States, where IRA have introduced this methodology called GoRap. How effective do you think this methodology works on the people, especially in the West?
So I'll give you just a quick example, and that was at the University of Texas at Austin. So remember, I said Austin is a very liberal place.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Muslims sometimes believe is that atheists are really hard to make dawah to. And so because I was in school at the time, I had the opportunity to be there with the students, and we would have a dawah table every single week. And we go through the training, not in 1 5-hour session or something like that. We were able to stretch it out over the entire semester. So they would learn something and then apply it, learn it, apply it, learn it, apply it. And subhanAllah, I think the semester before we had the training, we had, I think they had 1 shahada or maybe 0 shahadas. Okay. The semester after this, when people started getting trained, I think we had 11 people within the semester who took their shahada. And out of those 11, I believe it was 6 or 7 that became practicing, learning their deen and coming to the masjid, etc. And really, it goes to show that it wasn't something that because I was there or something like that, but they were taking the methodology and applying it, right? And so, with the methodology itself, and sometimes they'd be very excited, like, oh man, it actually worked. There's one guy, and I'll make this my last one. He came to me and he said, like, we went through the whole GoRap, and the guy said, yes, I agree. And he said, I froze. I was like, you do? Are you sure? I said, did you ask him to take his shahada? He's like, no, I couldn't believe it worked. So anyway, so I mean, alhamdulillah, it's been effective. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. I also agree 100% that this is one of the best way, if not the only way. It's one of the best way or effective way to convey the message of Islam because of the structure of the GoRap itself, where you have a flow of conversation that you can lead back or depend on when you are talking to a non-Muslim. So, Jazakallah khair. So, back to Imam Anwar, mashallah. I would like to ask you, like, people in the East, yeah, I call myself people of the East here. We sometimes think that the Muslims in America, they are in a lot of pressure, yeah, a lot of pressure because of what may have happened in the past, and the media has given like a very bad image towards Islam. And at the same time as well, if I can mention of what happened in during the September 11, that that happened, but eventually more than 50,000 people embraced Islam over that stretch of year. So whether this information is correct or wrong, maybe you can share with the audience here, inshallah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about those exact numbers, to be honest. You know, how many people accepted Islam, how many people, because there's different studies that have shown, but for sure, without a doubt, the number of people that accepted Islam after 9/11 was definitely way more than before. Wait, we know this for a fact. More people were visiting masajid, more people were learning about it. It gave a lot of exposure. And here's the thing. Exposure is a double-edged sword. It means that more people are going to be looking up. A lot of people are going to be honest and they're seeking for the truth. And there are people now that are going to be like, oh, they're just going to quickly write them off. And so hate crime did increase as well. So even though, yes, there were more people accepting Islam, there's also a large number of like hate crimes against Muslims, you know what I mean? Issues like this, discrimination, and this continues even till this day. However, I think people that are genuine and they want to seek the truth, they will seek it. And you know, like in the stories that we said, wallah, on a weekly basis, we would get visitors and shahadas. I remember when we did a count. So we have a brother, alhamdulillah, now who is our new Muslim coordinator, right, in our masjid, where he coordinates with all the new Muslims that come in, makes sure that they have, you know, a mentor or somebody to help them out, you know, stuff like this. Inshallah ta'ala, follow up, you know, let them know about events, things that are happening. And I asked him to put together like how many shahadas we get in an average year. And these are the shahadas that the masjid gets. These are not us actively going out for da'wah. These are just people coming to the masjid. And we averaged, I want to say, about 35 shahadas a year. You know what I mean? Just from the masjid. These are just people coming in, and you know, asking questions, being like, hey, look, I saw you guys were here, I did this, you know, whatever it may be. And they accept, and all different backgrounds, you know, some of them professionals, working professionals, some of them are college students, some of them are even high school students. I had a high school student, he was still in high school, right? He's a white kid from Mississippi, came in and he was like, I want to take my shahada. And you know, he was talking to me about some videos that he saw online on YouTube, and it was just amazing, subhanallah. So it was something, you know, amazing that this kid wanted to accept Islam, and he did. The week later after he took his shahada, he came in, he brought his girlfriend, and he said she wants to take her shahada.
Nice.
So she did. And then he's like, I know that, you know, like we have to be married and stuff like this. Can you guys help us? And so we told him, yeah, but you have to get married like legally. He's like, oh, we're not ready, blah, 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 this and this and this. So one of the other imams said, look, I'll do you guys' Islamic ceremony. Don't worry about it. And he did. So they got married too. I was like, subhanallah, all, you know, complete package.
Wow, mashallah.
Sheikh Fahad and also Imam Anwar, I really hope someday we can invite you to come to Malaysia and deliver a couple of lectures across the country, different states.
Inshallah.
I before with Imam Anwar, and you know, because giving us this kind of exposure or information from the West actually help us to, you know, appreciate our life even better here, living in a majority Muslim country where we enjoy a lot of the Muslim facilities, especially. It's something very, you know, sometimes we take for granted, unfortunately, because. Yeah, and also even in terms of da'wah, sometimes it becomes a huge challenge for us who are involved in da'wah to call Muslims to do da'wah, because you know, there's no need or there's no necessity. And unfortunately, like one of the points that Sheikh Fahad mentioned earlier, just because you are a minority in a majority non-Muslim country, you tend to behave even better, or you tend to become even better because you do not want to give a wrong impression to the non-Muslims about Islam. So subhanallah, unfortunately, sometimes here, the adab, or we say the, what is it, sometimes people got misconception just by looking at a Muslim's attitude or his personality or even his action, his or her actions, unfortunately.
Right.
So, jazakumullah khairan. Any last word from Sheikh Fahad and also Imam Anwar, inshallah, for the Malaysian audience?
No. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you. May He accept your qiyam, your siyam, your dua, all of the acts that you're doing this month. May He accept them. May He accept your du'as and overlook all of our shortcomings and our sins. This is the month, and perhaps this is Laylatul Qadr. Well, it's Layl for us right now. I don't know what it's maybe daytime for you guys, but in these last 10 nights, this is the time to come back to Allah. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept all of our deeds in this blessed month and accept all the work that you guys are doing, Fadhli, Sheikh, Imam Anwar, and just may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you.
Ameen.
Ameen.
Imam Anwar.
Oh, Jazakumullah khairan. Wallahi, thank you all for tuning in and giving us, an hour of your time. Inshallah ta'ala, I hope it was beneficial. And yeah, if Allah gives us, time and an opportunity, I would love to visit, Malaysia, Indonesia, all those places, inshallah ta'ala.
Makes two of us.
And not only share what we have, but also benefit from you guys. I think you guys have a lot of, mashallah, experience and knowledge that we can also benefit from, inshallah.
Inshallah.
I would like to thank you both. Jazakallah khair for both of you to spend your night with us. I know it's Qiyam there. Now it's already midnight, right?
It's 12 o'clock, midnight, yeah.
Yeah, it's midnight, and we are here at 1 p.m. We are going to pray our Zuhur Salah soon. So I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may Allah continue to bless you both and also all the audience in this blessed month of Ramadan, and may Allah accept all our ibadah, and may Allah elevate our status, inshallah, not only in this world but also in the hereafter. And inshallah, I really hope next year, after all this COVID is done, we can try to arrange some program with both of you, inshallah. Hopefully, inshallah.
Yeah, Fahad, we're here, inshallah.
Inshallah. Okay, Sheikh, Fahad and also Imam Anwar, I'll see you soon. Assalamualaikum.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
Alhamdulillah, itulah sedikit perkongsian daripada dua orang sahabat saya, iaitu daripada Sheikh Fahad Tasleem dan juga Imam Anwar Arafat. Dan insyaAllah tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, kalau ingin mengikuti apa yang mereka lakukan, kerja-kerja dakwah di Amerika, bolehlah terus follow di page mereka di Facebook dan juga Instagram. InsyaAllah di sana tuan-tuan dan puan-puan boleh mendapat maklumat lebih lanjut mengenai program-program yang dianjurkan oleh mereka, insyaAllah. Dan sekali lagi, terima kasih kerana menonton dan telah share video ni kepada lebih ramai orang. Dan insyaAllah jangan lupa nanti jam 6.30 petang saya akan ada satu bengkel dakwah di mana saya akan kongsikan tips-tips bagaimana kita nak menyampaikan dakwah, dan ini dah termasuk siri yang kelima. Jadi hanya 30 minit sementara kita tunggu untuk berbuka puasa, bolehlah lihat di page saya ataupun page-page yang anda sedang tonton sekarang. InsyaAllah akan ada live lagi pada malam ini, pada petang ini pukul 6.30, dan jangan lupa untuk hadir. Dan satu lagi, insyaAllah pada pukul 10 malam hari ini, saya dan juga Brother Lim Jui Soon, kita akan mengadakan satu online streaming ataupun online ceramah ini, di mana kita akan berkongsikan satu tajuk yang sangat penting, iaitu diberi tajuk mengenai bersama pengurusan saudara baru, di mana insya-Allah apa yang akan disampaikan oleh Brother Lim ialah mengenai isu-isu semasa dalam menguruskan saudara baru. Contohnya, saya baru masuk Islam, bolehkah saya tinggal serumah dengan keluarga saya yang bukan Islam? Ataupun kita tanya soalan-soalan seperti, saya baru masuk Islam tetapi dekat rumah saya ada pelihara anjing, jadi macam mana saya nak dirikan solat? Jadi soalan-soalan macam gini insya-Allah akan dijawab oleh Brother Lim Juisun pada pukul 10 malam nanti. InsyaAllah tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, sementara tunggu nak sambung qiyam ke atau nak sediakan sahur, bolehlah insya-Allah bersama dengan kami pada malam ini, insya-Allah. Dan sesiapa yang ada kelebihan bolehlah lihat di atas ini ada satu link, iaitu asia.aira.org. Sesiapa yang berminat untuk sumbang untuk kerja-kerja dakwah yang AIRA lakukan di seluruh dunia, bolehlah teruskan, insya-Allah. Dan jangan lupa kepada platform-platform media dan juga ataupun page-page yang anda sedang menonton sekarang, tolonglah support mereka juga, sebab tanpa mereka maklumat ini mungkin tidak akan sampai atau tidak sampai kepada tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, insya-Allah. Dari itu, saya Fadhli Burhan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.